This time we're going to go back to motions and resolutions. I'm going to recognize the Majority Leader. Mr. Holden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 63 and Assembly Bill 77 to allow the following bill to be taken up today without reference to file for purpose of concurring in Senate amendments. The bill is Assembly Bill 104.
Without objection, that request is granted. And at this time, we're going to go to AB 104. Dr. Weber, you're recognized. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 104 by the Committee on Budget, an act relating to education finance, making appropriation therefore to take effect immediately, bill related to the budget.
Dr. Weber, you're recognized.
Yes, I rise today for AB 104, K-12 Omnibus Bill. This is a trailer bill that contains all of the statutory changes needed to accompany our 2015-16 K-12 budget decision, and it does some of the following. It establishes the California Career Technical Education Incentive Grant Program, making critical changes to the governor's framework to open up the field and create better opportunity for new CTE programs to use these funds. It appropriates $3.8 billion in one-time funding to pay down Prop 98 mandated backlog. It appropriates $500 million in one-time funding for education effectiveness, including beginning teacher support and peer assistance. It appropriates $145.5 million in one-time funding to the School Facilities Emergency Repair Account to fulfill the terms of the Williams versus State of California settlement. It creates an adult education block grant program to distribute $500 million to regional K-12 and community college consortia to support ongoing and new adult education programs. It allows Adult Ed Consortium to spend funding on programs for older adults that relate to employment or helping children succeed in elementary and secondary education. It also appropriates $10 million in one-time funding for data-driven systems of learning and behavioral support, and it broadens the eligibility for the Charter School Facilities Grant Program and establishes homeless students as a subgroup for purposes of local control and accountability plans. I respectfully ask for your aye vote for AB 104 for the concurrence on the Senate amendments. Yes.
Ms. Olson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I, too, rise in support of AB 104. And my compliments to this House and to the Governor's administration for making education a true priority in the budget this year. I think that's fantastic. It's something that we've been arguing for my entire time in the State Assembly. I am disappointed that about $100 million is shifted away from the classroom into other priorities, but still, on the whole, this is a state budget that reflects education as a top priority in California, and that's a great step forward for our kids. In fact, after this year's budget, data shows that we have now taken spending on education in California back up into the top quartile again. And that's a huge positive for our students and for our future economically as a state, because our ability to grow economically as a state is so closely connected to our ability to fund our education system. Now what we need to do is move beyond this, the funding mechanism, and work together as Republicans and Democrats to also fix our school system. Funding is important to educational success, but at the end of the day, all the funding in the world doesn't do what it takes to make sure that we're raising student achievement outcomes out of the bottom quartile and into the top quartile as well. So moving forward, I look forward to working with all of us as colleagues on education reform, true education reform that sets our students up for success in school, in the workplace, and in life. The funding piece is a good first step. Now let's come together on the reform piece. Urge an aye vote.
Mr. Hernandez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in support of this trailer bill, as I'm proud that it contains our shared value of recognizing our seniors as lifelong learners, which merit state investment. While the focus is always on the big picture when it comes to reconciling a $115 billion budget, we must not lose sight of the many small proposals that enrich this document. One such proposal is the reestablishment of the eligibility of older adult education classes. 2 years ago, due to fiscal constraints, the education community, at our urging and under the imminent threat of significant funding cuts, they came together to limit adult education programs to a narrow set of categories. As a consequence, zeroed out funding for classes vital to our seniors' mental and physical well-being. I'm proud that this budget overturns that forced policy decision without adding any extra costs to the state budget. The benefits of older adult education classes for seniors are enormous, The classes provide an opportunity for seniors to improve their mental and physical health. It provides them a space to be engaged, to participate in their communities, our communities, and to continue caring for themselves and others. As we vote today on this trailer bill, it is clear the voices and needs of our seniors as lifelong learners resonate in the California State Assembly. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Harper, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill, most objectionably because of the reason of shifting what should be educational resources into child care. Proposition 98 is supposed to be for education and preserving our funding towards education. And we start chipping away and start shoving other things into the Prop 98 budget, we are shortchanging our kids and shortchanging the future. And so that I urge a no vote on this bill.
Mr. Gallagher, you're recognized.
Mr. Speakers and members, I am going to support this bill today, but I do want to talk about a couple things that I think are concerning and that we should be focused on in the future. First of all, I am concerned, as several colleagues have mentioned, about shifting money away from Prop 98, money out of the classroom to other priorities. If we want to work on those priorities, they should be done in general fund. They shouldn't be robbing money from Prop 98 to do so. I do also, I think what is important in this bill is it puts a focus on career technical education. $900 million for career technical education incentive grants. These are very important to help get our young people who may not be going into a four-year college but have the opportunity to get into a job, career tech field, and be able to get that education so they can go on and become productive members of the California society. So that's very important. One thing I'm a little bit concerned about there is that it does prioritize that money for schools that don't have career tech ed. While there's a lot of great career tech programs that are already out there, we should not punish good actors who have good programs and put them behind. We need to encourage those programs and help expand them. And lastly, what I don't think has been addressed yet is we don't repeal the 3% cap on reserves. And I know, members, you've heard from your local board trustees who are trying to manage their resources carefully that 3% cap, it's a disaster for trying to plan and to be fiscally prudent in how we manage our local school district resources. We need to repeal the cap. We need to have the will to do that. And I'm disappointed that that's not in this bill. It should be. But nonetheless, I think overall this is a good plan that invests in education for our children, so I will be supporting it.
Mr. McCarty, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this measure. You know, this essentially is what our budget's all about, reinvesting in our public school system. We have the great opportunity this year to really do so. From early education to K-12 to community college, and this implementing bill focuses on that. I just want to address one issue that came up as far as diverting money from Prop 98 to other state priorities. That really is not accurate. Prior, we used to have child care and preschool in Prop 98. That was a proposal that we heard through conference committee. This budget does not do so. It only shifts some preschool funds, not child care, preschool, into Prop 98 for the full-day wrap. Half of state preschool program is already in Prop 98. This is just one slight amendment to make it more focused on the Department of Education. So this makes sense, and ask for support of this measure.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Dr. Weber, you may close.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, I appreciate the bipartisan support for our schools, for education in California. This bill is obviously a step forward that puts more money into our schools, focuses more on teacher training and preparation, and hopefully moves the needle further in terms of the achievement of our children. I respectfully ask for an aye vote for AB 104.
This time, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Aye 71, noes 8. The measure passes. Colleagues, at this time we will go back. This time we're going to go back to motions and resolutions. I'd like to recognize the Majority Leader, Mr. Holden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 63 and Assembly Rule 77 to allow AB 117 to be taken up today without reference to file for purposes of concurring in Senate amendments.
Without objection, the request is granted. At this time, let's take up AB 117. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 117 by the Committee on Budget, an act relating to public resources, making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately, bill related to the budget.
Dr. Weber, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, AB 117 is our general government trailer bill, the second one. And this includes a technical amendment for the State Treasurer's Office to ensure that debentures are paid on par with general obligation bonds. It also provides a one-year extension on the time a lead agency must approve a project that has been certified by the government under the Jobs and Economic Improvement through Environmental Leadership Act of 2011. I respectfully ask for your aye vote for AB 117.
Ms. Olson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise, I guess, in support of AB 117 because I have never seen a bill to streamline, exempt, or reform CEQA in any way that I haven't liked. But having said that, it is unbelievable to me, unbelievable, that we are back here again for, I think, the third year in a row, streamlining CEQA for a professional sports arena and refusing to do it for projects that will lead to economic growth and vitality in our state. Now, I love the Warriors. As many of you saw, I had a recent wager with the Speaker of Ohio over who would win the finals, and I am absolutely thrilled that he had to wear the jersey, not me. Go Golden State Warriors. And I want them to be able to have a great new arena, and that is why I'm urging an aye vote on this bill. I also supported the streamlining for the Kings Arena, and we all see every single day the incredible progress they're making on what's going to be a beautiful arena and a great economic tool for the downtown area of Sacramento. But for crying out loud, we are in a water crisis in the state of California unlike we have ever seen before. Families don't have water to shower in. Farmers have laid fallow over 500,000 acres of land. Almost 20,000 farm workers are put out of work. Computer chips are at risk. The technological hub of the world here in the Silicon Valley of California is at risk. Our bio-life industries are being threatened because of a lack of water. And we cannot provide streamlining of the California Environmental Quality Act to move forward projects, to expedite projects, move them out of bureaucracy and into construction, because we will not provide the same level of streamlining and reform for projects that increase water supply that we do for professional sports arenas? You have got to be kidding me. What are we doing on this floor if we are not standing up for our constituents in every corner of the entire state of California, urban, rural, suburban alike, by saying it's good enough for professional athletes and fans, but it is not good enough for average Californians who depend on water for their very lives. I urge this body to think very carefully about this and to come back together in special session, in regular session, over the interim, over summer recess, whatever it takes, and stand by hardworking Californians, stand by the health and the future of our economy, and do this same level of streamlining reform for water projects that are going to increase supply and provide for the future of this beautiful, great state that we are all honored to serve. Urge an aye vote, but more importantly, urge us to come back to get this right once and for all for the good of every single Californian.
Ms. Waldron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all know that CEQA can be an impediment to development. Time-wise, money-wise, opening projects to litigation. That's one of the reasons why it's being streamlined for these sports arenas in this bill. I come from a district that's suffering economically because of the drought. I'm in Southern California ag region. We need water storage. In fact, I had a bill last year, AB 2353, to streamline CEQA just so that we could expand existing reservoirs, not even new ones, and that died in committee. I urge this body to look at real CEQA reform for all of our economic benefits, not just sports arenas, and consider the fact that water is our biggest crisis. Thank you.
Mr. Wilk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. As a Los Angeles Clipper fan, I reluctantly rise in support of AB 117. One of my most favorite quotes from Governor Brown is, "I haven't seen a CEQA exemption that I didn't like." And so I am going to be supportive of this. But I share the concerns laid out by our minority leader that we have to fix this problem. When CEQA was first instituted by then Governor Ronald Reagan in the early 70s, CEQA was to be used as a tool to take into account the environment when we developed. Now it's used as a weapon. And it's hurting us. It's hurting water. We have high housing prices because we have inadequate supply because they can't build them. And we do need to come together on this and be serious about it. And maybe we can even have a larger budget next year that you all can spend because we've increased the economy because we have real economic growth because we're actually building things in this state. So I urge and I vote on this measure.
Mr. Linder, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and member. And first of all, I'd like to say, go Warriors. My district director will be thrilled that I started like this. I want to echo a lot of the comments that the minority leader had already discussed on how we can continue to do these for sports franchises and building arenas, which are obviously really good for the local economies, and that's great. But the fact of the matter is in my district, people spend most of their lives in traffic. Our roads are clogged, our infrastructure is falling apart down there, and people are missing softball practices because they're stuck in traffic. Just yesterday, there was an event in the district. Our president was on the freeway, and that led to 3-hour delays if you were to come from LA to my hometown. And that's a big problem. This is affecting the lives of every single person that makes a commute in my district, and this is something that's completely left out of. I don't see CEQA exemptions for any transportation projects, bridges, roadways. These are things that really, really impact the citizens that we represent, and I'd really like to stand with our minority leader and say, look, we have really important things outside of just sports arenas that we can use these exemptions on. So I will be supporting this because we want to promote these types of exemptions, but at the same time, let's get together, let's get our stuff together and figure out a way to do this right so that we can streamline it permanently. Thank you. I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Gallagher, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Question of the author.
Without objection.
I would like to ask, could we amend this bill to add in a CEQA streamlining for water storage projects?
Point of order. What is your point of order, Mr. Holden?
Point of order is that we're focused on this bill. We're not looking to amendment. Amendments would be out of order.
Yeah, amendment's not. Point well taken.
Point well taken at this time. That suggested amendment would be out of order on the bill. Mr. Gallagher?
Well, I know I'm new here. And so I understand we can't take amendments right now, even friendly amendments. But I see up there, on the screen, it says concurrence in Senate amendments. So we don't have to concur. We could send this back to the Senate, and we could keep working on this. And we have till June 30 to do so. And you know what? I'm ready to get to work. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves, and let's bring all the people together. Let's bring all the stakeholders together. I realize this stuff takes work, okay? I understand that. But we've got some time.
Mr. Holden, Mr. Holden, what's your point of order?
For purposes of having order in the House, we ask that the Speaker be focused on the merits of the bill that's in front of us and the concurrence that's being requested.
Point well taken, Mr. Holden. Mr. Gallagher, if you could please proceed.
Just for the record, my sleeves are rolled up, and I know we're talking about CEQA exemptions and streamlining.
Mr. Stone, what is your point of order?
It's the rules. I believe it is the rules of this House that a male speaker who intends to be recognized wear a jacket and a tie.
Mr. Stone, point well taken. That is the custom of this House. Mr. Gallagher asked if you could please put your jacket back on. Mr. Gallagher.
With that being said, because I am a fan of decor, and we want to keep the formal decor here, but I still stand ready to work on this. In all hilarity aside, this is an important issue, and the subject of this bill is CEQA streamlining. It's about CEQA streamlining and doing this for the Warrior Stadium and another project in Los Angeles. Why not? We can do the work. We have the time. That's what we're here to do. And what I would ask you to do is, I know I'm a rookie. It's my first term. I know I talk too much. Okay, I got it. But nonetheless, we can do this work, and I think our constituents, the people of this state, will thank us for it if we come together and do this for water storage projects. So what I would ask is something that's, it's not done all the time, but we can do it together as this body is. Let's send this bill back to the Senate and say, let's work together, both of our houses, to work on water storage CEQA streamlining. I'd ask for your help in that. Please vote no on Senate concurrence. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. And with all hilarity aside, our colleague from Nicholas has raised an interesting point, and I think that we all should take serious that if we are committed to CEQA reform in California, as he eloquently pointed out, we do have the opportunity to send this bill back to the Senate. And there's been very good speeches previously in favor of the bill, and what it does for a couple of projects in the state. We could do this statewide, and although that the bill is supportable on the whole, we are capable as legislators and representatives of our district to put additional amendments into the bill if we send it back to the Senate. So I'm going to ask for a no vote on the concurrence and ask that we send it back to the Senate and amend it as it's been suggested. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mathis, you're recognized.
Motion to table.
It's not an order on a bill that's back on concurrence.
The motion to table is not an order on a bill that is back on concurrence. Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Harper.
After listening to this and the important issues that were brought up regarding transportation, regarding water, and some very serious issues, honestly, park and a sports stadium, let's stop wasting time. I won't be voting in favor of this measure.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Dr. Weber, you may close.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote for AB 117.
At this time, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 62, noes 13. The Senate amendments are concurred in. And with that, at this time, we're going to go back to the daily file. All main bills in the daily file, as well as the consent calendar, we will pass and retain. And we will now move to announcements and adjournments in memory. The following members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjourn in memory. I'd like to first recognize Assemblymember Thurman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.
Colleagues, if I could ask everyone if you could please take your seats and keep your conversations to a minimum during the adjourns in memory. I would appreciate that. Mr. Thurman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sadly, I rise to ask that the Assembly adjourn in memory for several students from Ireland who passed away this week in what was a horrific accident in downtown Berkeley where an apartment balcony collapsed. It's a tragedy to know that these young people lost their lives at such a young age and at a point where they'd started a new summer adventure in California. The 5 Irish students who were here, among hundreds of Irish young adults, were working in Berkeley on a J-1 visa for the summer. 7 others were injured during the accident, and we hope for their fast recovery. I'd like to read the names of those whose lives were taken and ask that we adjourn in their memory, and they are as follows. Olivia Burke, age 21, from Fox Rock, Ireland, who was a college student who worked at a radio station in Ireland before coming to the United States. Emer Walsh, 21, from Dublin, Ireland, who was studying medicine at the University of College Dublin. Owen Culligan, 21, from Dublin. He was a student at the Dublin Institute of Technology and had completed his 3rd year in the program for logistics and supply chain management. Nikolai Schuster, 21, from Dublin, who attended St. Mary's College in Rathmines, Ireland. Lorcan Miller, 21, from Dublin, who was studying medicine at the University College of Dublin. And Ashley Donahoe, 22, of Rohnert Park, California. This tragedy has touched many in Berkeley, in California, in Ireland, and throughout the world. We're deeply sorry that these young folks have lost their lives, and I ask you colleagues that we today adjourn in their memory. Thank you.
Mr. Mullen, I'd like to recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, rise to adjourn in the memory of the 6 young people who lost their lives this week. My thoughts are also with the 7 survivors who are in recovery. I know their injuries are both physical and psychological, as this tragic event will have lifelong ramifications. I'm saddened what would have been a summer of intercultural exchange was marred by this terrible incident. The work travel program has brought more than 150,000 Irish students to the United States in the past 50 years, including 8,000 last summer. California, and in particular the San Francisco Bay Area, is a favorite destination for these Irish students. I want to commend the Consul General of Ireland, Philip Grant, for the grace and responsiveness he has demonstrated in the wake of this tragic event. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those impacted, both here in the United States and abroad.
Mr. Gallagher, you're recognized.
Members, I also just wanted to rise and adjourn in memory of these Irish students. As a young undergraduate at UC Berkeley, I actually had the opportunity to interact with Irish exchange students, and it was a great experience. We shared cross-culturally, and so it kind of hit close to home when I saw this in the news. It's a tragedy for these families who had to hear about this back home. It's a tragedy for the community there in Berkeley, and I just ask that we just keep these families in our thoughts and prayers and adjourn in their memory today.
Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Moving now to announcements, the scheduled session is as follows. Monday, June the 22nd, floor session at noon. Tuesday, June the 23rd, check-in session. Wednesday, June the 24th, check-in session. Thursday, June the 25th, floor session at 9 a.m. Friday, June the 26th, no floor session, no check-in session. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Ms. Garcia moves and Ms. Waldron seconds that this House stands adjourned until Monday, June the 22nd at noon. At this time, quorum call is lifted.